Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. I know we had a few minutes of fun on Wednesday this week as well, but that's because I needed to fit those journal pages in before Halloween. It's been a shifting and changing October, but we're definitely in autumnal mode today. I wanted to create a couple of autumnal versions of these decorative tapes we created using masterboard techniques. Masterboard just means you work on a large surface and then later you're probably going to cut that up into smaller backgrounds. I've already got a surface which is made up of strips of masking tape, so I'm not going to need to cut it up. It will just be a question of peeling that tape away. I've decided I'm mostly going to work in paint and in archival ink colours, mostly because if I work with distress, that's going to remain vulnerable to moisture and shift and move around, whereas archival and paint will give me a much longer term finish. I've also got a couple of my watercolours in waiting, ready to go. A couple of Tim Holtz stamp sets that I think might be nice. A couple of my newest PaperArtsy stamp sets, which I think are also going to be part of the game, released earlier this month. And yeah, some of my stencils as well. Anyway, I'm just gonna kick off, and I think I might kick off actually with this new twisty falling leaves. Could be falling leaves, could be foliage, could be blossom, could be butterflies, could be birds, could be anything really. I've got my silicone mat just next to me so that I can use it as a sort of a palette surface, I guess. And I've put down some scrap paper underneath. It's one of those cheap rolls of drawing paper from the Swedish furniture store from the kids section. So I'm just going to put a bit of, what have I got? Autumn Fire. Oh, look, all over me already. Autumn Fire, Brown Shed. These are the PaperArtsy Fresco finished chalk acrylics that I really enjoy using. So many different colours to play with. And I'm just going to create some tumbling, changing fall leaves on there. This is, what have I got? Also Granny Smith Lawn, and this is Tangerine Twist, which I think might be quite a nice autumnal colour to play with. And then I've got some bits of, this is natural sponge actually, which I do enjoy using over the fake stuff. And I think I'm just going to fairly lightly, probably, I don't want a load of paint on the sponge, just get some tumbling leaves on the go through this twisty stencil. It's going to look, the thing with a masterboard is it very often looks like a hot mess until it then doesn't. But this is just to get us a sort of background feeling of falling foliage, just to give us that autumnal look. I'm just letting the paints mix and match as they go. Autumn Fire and Brown Shed are pretty prominent colours. They will take over if you give them a chance. But I just want to start us off with a little bit of that autumnal movement and swirl through the air. They've almost all gone brown, which I really don't mind. I'm fine with that. I'll just make sure I do lots of my stamping later in a greener colour. All good. Grand. Very nice. So let's maybe stamp some of these beautiful Tim Holtz leaf prints. In fact, that's what the set is called, leaf prints. Here we go. Perfect. And I'm going to go a bit green with these, I think, just to start me off with some green leaves that have maybe got just a touch of, I don't know, sepia creeping in. So that's leaf green with a bit of sepia. Let's pop that across there. Nice. Another one of those maybe somewhere else, because by the time I peel these apart, they're not going to be anywhere near each other. So you can repeat to your heart's content. And because 3 is a lucky number, let's go with another of those, maybe coming in that direction. Very nice, slightly greener one up there. That's good. I'm not going to be terribly bothered about religiously cleaning these stamps. because if they've just got ink on them, that's never going to impact your stamping quality for the future. If I stamp in paint, then you do need to make sure you clean things off, because that could be problematic in the future. What else have we got? Should we maybe do some... I don't want to go only autumn colours. I do want some sort of blues and turquoises making their way through these pages as well. But let's just start ourselves off getting a bit of green on the go, because I think that's going to be quite nice. That's a beautiful leaf stamp. Look at that. This is a wonderful way as well if you've got those stamp sets that you buy thinking, oh, I'm going to use that so much, and then you use sort of 3 or 4 of the stamps. They become absolute favourites, and others seem to only rarely get a look in. This kind of project is a lovely way to just say hello to some of the stamps that get used more rarely, because, as I say, in the long run, as I peel these away, they're going to separate out and just give you those impressions of stamps and of leaves without being full on. There's a lovely fern here, which I also feel should be green. I'm just wondering if I've got any kind of yellowish archival ink. I'm just going to have a quick look. Yellow, as you will know, is not a colour I use very often, but I have, it seems, in the past picked up some more colours that I think might be useful for this. Always nice to have a range of archival inks, because there are techniques you can do with those that you really can't do with distress inks. Techniques where you need something with permanence. I've just discovered this colour called Fern Green, so it seems to me that should be the one I use with this ferny stamp. I'm going to pop that through there. Yes, that's a nice colour. Why is that one tucked away on the secondary shelf? That's where I went when I turned the camera off for a second just then. I've got archival inks over on a shelf on the other side of the room that are not ones that I use on a daily basis. They come into use every now and then, and I've just discovered that Fern Green is one that might want to make its way into a more permanent position. That's a bit of Dandelion on the edge of that one. Let's see what that gives us in that direction. Yes, that's quite a nice yellow to just have a little play with. I'm going to get my twisted Umbels, which I think are going to be a lovely addition to this, and we might stamp them. Don't know. Do you want them green? Just going to have a look at the overall impact so far. Definitely going to put some blues on this using the watercolor paints in a bit, but I think I might see what these look like in this colour, Orange Blossom. What I will do is maybe mix it with a bit of Sepia. Not sure I want a lot of stem going on here, because that's just going to look like a stripe in the long run. So I've got Orange Blossom going all the way around. I'm just going to add a little bit of Sepia to the heart of each of those, tipping and tilting it to get the corner of the stamp into action, corner of the pad, to make contact with those. Oh, that's nice, that autumnal little gathering there. So let's go again. Orange Blossom round the edges, so I'm picking up the flowers of that umbel, and then yes, I'm going to tilt the corner of the ink pad, that corner, then that corner, to just really hit the middles of those flower heads and give them a bit more weight and presence. I might do a couple of these in green as well, because I'm enjoying that, and maybe a couple in yellow. Oh, it's exciting. Could be anything. You can really mix and match and play with this. And as I say, don't panic that initially everything looks maybe a little bit messy, maybe a little bit crazy. That's one of the joys of the masterboard. That's nice and yellow as well, isn't it? Was that the Dandelion? I've forgotten already. So let's do the next one with a bit of Dandelion and a bit of Orange Blossom. So I'm just building up layers here, as you can see, building up imagery, pleasurable moments of leaves being really visible, other moments where it's just a sort of lovely gathering of colour. That's nice. Put another of those through there because it's very rare. Yellow and red, very rare. Yellow is sort of starting to creep in more often. Red, still almost never. But there's something really nice about that golden glow. In fact, the leaves around here, I'm sharing photos on my other Instagram account at the moment, Bohemian Home, where I share pictures of the garden and the countryside roundabout. The golden leaves this year are really quite something. Good, that's nice. Lots and lots of sort of autumnal joy going on. Might do one in, where's my leaf green gone? There's my leaf green, just because I do enjoy these Umbels in a green colour as well. We might give it a little bit of orange blossom just to bring the changes. Let's layer those over that leaf there. And let's maybe pop them also around this side. And then what I'm going to do next, I think, is put in a little bit of ephemera stamping, sort of words, numbers, labels. And those I think we might go into a little bit of blue and turquoise for, because I think that's going to be a lovely shift of focus. So let's pop those aside. Oh, you've also got on this set, got this lovely smaller branch, which I think might be a nice addition as well. Maybe we'll do a couple of those in the Fern green coming through here. So I'm eyeing my masterboard and seeing where I haven't got very much green going on. And I'm just going to add, ooh, that's pretty. Again, I'm going to leave off some of that stalk and just get these petals in the mix. Petals, leaves, fronds. Yeah, that's a nice addition. This is the Fern green again that I'm using. And again, it's making me think, well, that needs to come out and play more often. Very nice. Might do a bit of leafy stamping in some bronzes and things over here in a minute. Oh, I seem to have done that one in Dandelion, and I like that too. It's really interesting to me how seeing a stamp in a different colour can really change its mood completely. That's great in the Dandelion. I like it a lot. I'm going to need to try it in orange in a minute just to see what that does. Great. Okay, might do a little bit of this lovely sort of clock diagram here, just because that's going to give me some geometric shapes in amongst the other things that are going on. And I think we might do that in a combination of my much loved beach cruiser and the garden patina that I just dug out. So that's a really lovely contrast to the crazy wild organic stuff that's going on. This gives us something that's just a little bit more ordered, although I'm going to keep shifting the angle of it a little bit so it'll give us something different each time. No, I think I like the beach cruiser better than the garden patina, but we'll have a couple of each. Can you see how that turquoise is giving us a sort of shift of mood, a contrast to the other things that are going on? I'm going to find a couple of other. That's really nice. That's really nice. Might do one more just in this space here. This paint on the mat, if I don't want it to dry out, if I just give it a little spritz of water, that'll keep it fresh for a bit longer, just in case I decide to use some of it. What I'm almost certainly going to decide to use some of it for is to have a little spatter in a minute. Right, I'm going to do a little bit more ephemera stamping. I like some of these numbers and labels, so I'm going to get those out and have a play. Let's see, maybe you, nice firm number. And I might even go for a slightly darker blue on this one, because I think that's going to be fun as a contrast. think that's going to be a really nice, different element. In a minute, I'm going to do some watercolouring that is just going to create some contrast with the browns and the golds that are going on here. Just pop a few of these around. It's picking up ink just on the edge there. That's careless inking on my part, but it's simple enough to wipe back. Where do I want it? Got it there, got it there. Not that that really makes a difference. Once this is all separated out, it's not going to be anywhere near where it is there. I'm keeping these on right angles, as you can see. I'm not going madly diagonal with this. Again, that's about the contrast between Crazy Wild Organics and something a bit more geometric. So there's there is method to my madness, to quote a bit of Shakespeare. And maybe one more of those. I hope you can see what a difference that's making in terms of adding some order to what's going on across the page. It just gives us a lovely sort of weight or structure. Quite fond of structure, even though things might look a bit crazy at times. Structure is one of those things that can really make the eye a little bit happier as it moves around. Give it a bit of order, architecture. I also really like this alphabet stamp here, so I'm just thinking that might go on, and maybe that goes not solidly stamped, so not on a grid block. I might just do a bit of rolling on and off of that, and I think I'm inclined to do it maybe just in a soft, so this is Pebble Beach, so it's just going to give me that vintage text look in places. Obviously, at the end of the video, I will, as always, do a little close-up so you can see the layers and the details that are going on here. That will be after I've pulled these strips apart so that you can really see individually. When you look at it like this, it's hard to kind of tell where the focal points are or what's worth looking at. But that's really the point with design tape, is that you look at any given square inch and you get something different from what's in the next square inch. I do want to do a little bit of watercolouring, I think. So let's see, just with a craft brush, nothing fancy. Going to give my watercolours a little spritz of water to just warm it up. Think we probably want some Quin Gold Deep in here. I think that's going to be a nice thing to have. That's a real golden colour. Might even use some Nicolazzo yellow. And I'm just going to apply that colour, let it move. So here is where, if I'd used Distress inks, much as I love them, they would now head off in every which direction. I'm going to pop another little bit of that here. And all that stamping and careful watercolouring, all that careful stamping and stenciling I'd done would just vanish in every which direction. So using an archival formulation is really important. Wondering about, it's not in that set. I want something a bit bluey and a bit turquoisey and a bit greeny. I don't mean all in one colour. I mean, I want to be able to maybe pick up a bit of green gold and let that go through here, so that we've got those shifting colours also in these background colours. And you can see the things underneath are holding their own, but I can always choose to come back over with a bit more of the stamping if it gets lost. Gonna come in, I think, with some Sleeping Beauty turquoise, just because I think it's beautiful. And I think it'll give us that blue autumn sky feeling in a rather lovely way. Yeah, nice. Bit more of that. got cobalt turquoise as well. That's also quite nice. But I think it's the Sleeping Beauty turquoise that's going to give me that feeling of autumn skies. Maybe a little touch French ultramarine. Yeah, which gives us that contrast into the sky. One of my favourite things to take pictures of is glowing leaves against a blue sky. That's a real joy. So let's put some blue sky into here as well. That's cerulean blue. Cerulean meaning sky. So that is what it's saying. That's beautiful. Want more of it. So again, this is a question of looking as you're playing. What is the thing which gives you joy? If there's a particular element giving you joy, add some more of that element. I probably do want a bit more texty stamping, because that's one of the things I'm finding pleasurable here. I definitely want a bit more turquoise. I'm keeping this quite watery. Luckily, my masking tape has got quite a lot of tooth, what I call tooth, where you can see stripes. That's where it's hitting the paper that it's on underneath. I lined up my masking tape onto some watercolor paper, so there is paper underneath that is soaking up that paint very rapidly. The masking tape, even though it's got good tooth, is slightly less inclined to keep the colour, so this is why we're getting these very soft, subtle watercolor blends, which is lovely. I'm not against it. Putting in a bit of sap green on these edges, just because I think that's going to give us nice variation. And a bit more of that cerulean blue. He's calling to me down here. I love the contrast of that blue against these stenciled leaves. So I might give that a bit of a chance to dry and then come back and see if there's anywhere I want to add extra colour, extra stamping, or extra stenciling. There's a little hit of gold for you. Maybe a little hit of, ooh, Quinburnt orange is good. Oh, look at that. So I say I'm going to stop. And then it all goes wrong again. Because I just get distracted by some colours that are making my heart sing. Good. I might, as I say, leave that to dry a little. Come back and have a look at what we've got. This tape is now all too much one colour. So, I haven't gone away. In case you were wondering, that wasn't a cut. That was me looking at a thing and going, no, I still need to change something here. And of course, what I want to do now is a little bit of that sort of spatter, because that's going to soften into the background while everything's still wet. Nice. Let's bring a bit of that green down into here, just because we can. Good. I'm going to come back in and do some more stamping when this has had a chance to dry a little bit. Back shortly. Watercolour will always dry paler than you have applied it, but also as I've been drying that, I've just been picking up little bits of that colour using just some kitchen towel, just because I think that's going to give me a bit of texture, a bit more texture, a bit more delight, a bit more shifting and changing of the colours. As I'm looking at it now, I do want a bit more of my sort of blues and turquoises in these background colours. So I'm just going to allow those to reinvent themselves in some places. And I do want a bit of an intensification, maybe of a couple of the bits of yellow. But you can see it's just gradually building layers and looking at colours and kind of going, I want a bit more of that, I want a bit less of that. Letting that play out on the masterboard in front of you, on the collective whole, and then allowing for the fact that that will create variation later. I'm just going to pick up a bit of this paint, I think. So that's a bit of the Tangerine and a bit of the Lawn. And I might try and go for quite a light spatter. That's going to create texture as well. Just bringing things together. Then I'm going to give this another quick blast with the heat tool and come back in with some more stamping to bring that into the foreground. I've zoomed in a touch, and as you can see, that stamping has sort of dropped into the background. And what I really want to do is refresh some of that so that we can get back that lovely sense of autumn. I'm untroubled by that because what it gives us is a real depth. So I'm just going to layer up some more stamping. This is leaf green with the fern. Just going to bring some of these back into the foreground. The surface is slightly damp in places. Again, I'm not going to let that worry me unduly. I'm just going to see what I get because I really don't want perfection here. I just want subliminal layers of autumn. That's lovely over there. I'll do another of those ferns maybe up here. What we might do is get some browns involved in a minute. I'm wondering whether what I'd quite like. That's interesting. So the base of that gave me a lot. The other didn't. I'm wondering if that's just because it's still wet there. All good, all fine. Let's go with some of these twisted umbels, and let's maybe go in something fairly definite, maybe a coffee version of these, because I love the texture of them, and I like them back in the foreground a little bit. Yeah, that's nice. It's giving us just lovely detailing amidst the colours of the watercolour. The tumbling leaves in paint, as you can see, still deliciously prominent. They've gone nowhere. That's all working beautifully in there. The yellow stamping is the one that's sort of vanished under the detail. That's got some paint onto it because it is still wet there. So that I'm going to make sure I clean off. It's only watercolour paint, but nonetheless. Interesting. Again, is that just because it's wet up there? Let's give it a quick blast with the heat tool. See if we can get a little bit more detailed stamping back into that corner. Let's go again with the coffee. I think it's quite a nice... It's like having hedgerow flowers just peeking into the falling leaves, piles of falling leaves. Yeah, that's getting me something through there. I'm going to put another one in here. It's interesting because I can't remember when we did the summary ones, you'll have to go back and watch, that there was any problem with that's more like it, getting the stamping detail to show up either before or after the paint version. I'm enjoying the colours of this a lot now. That sort of variegation of blue and green and autumn just coming to the fore. Let's do a couple of these in green because I think that's going to be nice. There's that fern green one that I was enjoying. Hello. So many ink pads on the table now. And then I'm going to put a few more of these lovely leaf prints back in action as well. We'll go with a bit of green through there. Subtle but present. I'm actually really enjoying those stems as well, taking their part. Let's pop you in sepia. So this is the little grassy stem from that same Twisted Umbels set. I'm going to enjoy what's around the edge on these as well. Oh, that's nice. Let's do a couple more of those. Little grassy stem. Just coming into focus. Lovely. Maybe one over here. Going in the other direction. And for the most part, when I'm stamping, I'm sort of trying to stamp across more than one tape so that you're not getting a whole stamping, you're getting multiple partial stampings in each go. And it's just creating a little bit of autumnal detail, autumnal beauty. I'm going to come in with a couple of these in, yeah, I think I'll risk the beach cruiser again. I might need something a bit stronger. I'm going to come in and do that. Yes, there it is. Coming back into focus with that lovely geometric circle. Let's pop one here as well. There's sort of one under there in the layers, but I don't mind a sort of slight blurriness to picking it up again. Go across there, and again I'm stamping across tapes so that it puts in an appearance on both simultaneously. Let's see if we can now get a bit more detail going on up here, because that's better. Grand. A couple of leaf prints. Let's have you, because I was really enjoying you. And we might do you in sepia. A little bit of sepia leaf print. Coming maybe across here. Yeah, that's nice. Subtle bit there. Maybe a little bit down here. That's lovely. Maybe a little bit up here. That's good. That's good texture. Let's have another of those. And again, don't panic if things are looking a little bit random and a little bit crazy. You're going to get a much better look at everything, I promise. Just wondering about a couple of these slightly smaller ones, might be quite nice to have. Going to go coffee for a little leaf print like that. Pop you, where's there a space? There's a space. That's nice. It's just adding a bit of depth. See how that just gives us that nice. Another of those maybe somewhere here. And another of those maybe somewhere here. Interesting. So, starting to diagnose that it seems to be over the cerulean blue that it's unwilling to show up. Interesting. Why are you so objectionable, cerulean blue? And that's a nice little one. And I think this is a nice little one as well. Might do you in sepia, because I'm enjoying that sort of sepia orange delight. Yeah, good. You'll notice I'm not going in very often now with the Dandelion, mostly because I think it's just not going to show up against this multicoloured background. This autumnal beauty. There that is. And lots of you reminded me, which I'm very bad at remembering to do, that it's a really good idea if you create a masterboard that you like to scan it as a whole before you cut it up into its pieces, because that way you could reuse the background. If you spend a lot of money on printer inks and print it out, you can have this background multiple times. I want a little bit more of this text. It was very subtle because it was in the pumice stone, so I think what I might do is move it into, do I want blue, do I want brown? I think I might go beach cruiser with it and see what that gets me. A little bit of that blue text is rather lovely. Not going to go only in one direction, and again I'm rolling on and off with this, but I just want to create that little texty element, because as you know, being words and pictures, words and letters are important to me. That's beautiful, just emerging out of that gold there. That's very pleasing. A little bit there, a little bit down here. And again, trust me, wait for the peel back. If you're thinking, what on earth is going on here? wait for that moment of peel back and just see what happens. Maybe one more. Ooh, I quite like that number. I like that number. Let's maybe have one of those and do that in green. Really nice firm green. Maybe this fern green. When I said firm green, maybe olive. Olive is an old trusted favourite of mine. So I think that might be quite a nice thing to do it in. Yes, I'm right. Phew. Do love it when things prove me not crazy. Maybe a little bit up there. And again, I'm sticking very much to right angles on this, as I did on the background alphabet, keeping that very much a perpendicular addition. Oh, I'm glad I finally got something to come to the fore in that corner. It was slightly starting to bug me. Not easily bugged, as you'll have noticed. Generally, I'm prepared to accept what happens and live with it. But that was starting to confuse me up in that corner. I want a little bit more of this. And then I'm going to do some spatter. Then I might go and do a quick bit of scanning of the whole masterboard before coming back to peel it away for you, because it's in that magical moment of peeling that you really start to discover what it is you've created. Until then, it's not necessarily very easy to see what you might have achieved. And I do already have a plan for how to use some of this, so that may well come up in the next episode of A Few Minutes of Fun. I do want just a touch of frosty spatter. So I'm going to grab my Bleedproof white paint. So one of the joys of autumn is when you get autumn leaves with just a hint of frost around the edges. The magic of that on a chilly morning. I want to spatter my stamps really. So this final little moment of white spatter is giving me an echo of that frosty possibility, but it also just adds that extra thing that I love of movement, of randomness. Oh, that's a lot. So that's a particularly frosty corner. That was an exposed area last night. Caught the frost, but it's just giving me a bit of final autumnal chill across the masterboard. Great. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to scan it, and then I'll be back to peel it away and let you see how individual moments can then emerge from the chaos. Okay, it's peeling time. Again, lots of great suggestions last time around. Thank you for ways to store this, from photo albums with the kind of tissue paper backgrounds that you could keep it on. You can see it's still a little bit damp in places. I'm not going to let that worry me. It's catching the light. I'm going to continue to store it on some of this cheap watercolor paper, just because that seems to have served me okay so far with these ones. I've been perfectly happy with how they've come away. I am going to separate them out a bit so that I can see the different things happening. Maybe that wet paint does bother me. Maybe I'll just give that a really quick blast with the heat gun. Don't want to do too much with the heat gun, just because that will affect the adhesion of the masking tape in the long run, I guess. Or might melt it into this paper, I don't know. Or, as some people have been suggesting, a little bit of heat when you've been using masking tape to divide up a page for watercolour paintings. A little bit of heat is actually a good way to help it then come away. But that's, of course, if you don't want to glue it back down. Still, in the long run, I can always use some glue with this if this does mess with the adhesion. So I sort of want to take one from the middle to start with, just because you'll immediately see what I'm talking about. So with masking tape, what you don't want to do is pull directly up away from the page. I find that it gets you a much cleaner lift if you sort of double back and pull almost horizontally with the paper you're taking it off. Now at this point, I'm going to make sure I get a finger in there to just stop it from all rolling up on itself. It's already really cool from the back. And there it is, the right way up. So immediately I think you can probably see that you get a better look at all those individual moments of beauty from just having it like so. Let's grab another one. So this is one of the thicker ones. Again, I'm going to try and peel back, not directly upwards from the paper, but as soon as I've got enough to hold off onto, I'm peeling so that I'm really almost parallel with the paper. Again, I really love this one from the back. Going to get a finger in there so that I don't let it just spring back and roll up on itself. I'm going to try and be in charge of that moment when it comes away from the paper. There we are. Oh, that's a beauty. So much delight in that. And suddenly those tumbling leaves are just a moment within the main things that are going on. They're just, it's no longer a solid tumble of leaves. It's little moments of leafiness in different places. Let's go with one of these blue ones here. Again, peeling back. I love the edge of the paper that's being revealed there as well. That's a glorious strip of painted paper that I might need to try and preserve in some way, shape or form. Let's pop that one there. These have got a lovely autumn sunshine vibe to them. There we go. Let's have one more out of the middle of here. And then what I might do is just adjust them slightly so they don't have to take up 2 whole sheets of paper. They can certainly just be 1.5. Let's grab that. And then again, just at the end there, just to make sure it's not going to, like that, roll up. That's why you want a finger there, ready to catch it. Pop that one here. A little bit of fluff, a little bit of stuff. Turn that round so I can see that blue more clearly. That's nice. That's another beauty. Let's get this lovely autumnal one out of the middle here. Peeling back. Again, you can see I've got these little stripes where the masking tape wasn't quite meeting when I put it down originally. But that's quite funky. Quite enjoying what that's throwing up in my mind as a possibility. Let's pop that one down. Let's get you, because you're nice and bluey green. Yeah, this is a background in itself, these stripes of autumn colour. I will come up with a way to make the most of those as well. There. I think we can probably fit one more on here, can't we? Then there's going to be one annoying one left over. Although, as I said, I do have a plan already for how I might use some of this. I'm going to go with the thin one, and then we'll just have that one thick one left on its own bit of paper with all those amazing stripes. I don't know if you can see because the lighting's not great today. The variation of colour in those stripes is a thing of beauty as well. So let's pop you there. And then we've got the one thick piece left here to just take a look at what we've got. I'm gonna trim that off because those stripes at the moment are distracting me because they're so cool. Let's do that. So you've got one extra piece, and I'll probably paper clip those together so that doesn't go missing. Can you see the wonderful colours on that? Like a little bit of magic. And there we are. So there's our autumnal tape. As I say, I will dive in for a close-up so that you get a proper look at some of those moments of magic. But there really is that wonderful sense of randomness. That's the joy of this process, that it really just allows you... Sorry, wobbled the camera there because I got overexcited. at seeing my random bits of this, that and the other going on in there. Thanks so much, as always, for your company. I will, of course, link to the summertime version as well, so that you can watch that if you want to look at those summertime things. But that's a lovely late summer, early autumn version. If you'd like to see a winter version, let me know in the comments below if you think a winter version would be fun in about a month's time, something like that, maybe 6 weeks. And we'll maybe get even a little bit sparkly on that one. If you've enjoyed that, do give me a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, I would love to have your company on this creative journey. And as always, it's always a pleasure to interact with you all below the line. The journey would not be the same without you. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting all.